Did you know that one NFL player was so intimidating that opponents would fake injuries just to avoid facing him? That's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the most terrifying players in NFL history. In this video, we're counting down the top 10 players who struck fear into the hearts of their opponents. Get ready for bone-crushing hits, legendary performances, and unforgettable moments that change the game forever. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss out on our latest NFL content. Now, I'm not just talking about big guys who can hit hard. We're diving into the players who had that extra something, that aura of fear that made opponents wake up in cold sweats the night before game day. These are the guys who could change the entire game plan just by stepping on the field. Before we dive into the top 10 most feared players in NFL history, it's important to acknowledge two legendary defenses that epitomize fear and intimidation on the gridiron: the Legion of Boom and the '85 Bears defense. The Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom was a secondary known for its physical play, skill, and teamwork. Featuring Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, and Cam Chancellor, this unit terrorized quarterbacks and receivers alike. Sherman was known for his trash talk and shutdown coverage. Thomas patrolled the deep field with speed and intelligence, and Chancellor's bone-crushing hits intimidated anyone venturing into his territory. The Legion of Boom led the Seahawks to back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, including a dominant win where they held the record-setting Denver Broncos to just 8 points. Their swagger and confidence got into opponents' heads before the game even started, redefining what it meant to play secondary defense. The 1985 Chicago Bears defense, led by defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan and his innovative 46 defense, is often cited as the greatest in NFL history. Headlined by Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, and Dan Hampton, this unit was relentless and aggressive. Singletary was the heart and soul, known for his intense eyes and commanding presence. Both the Legion of Boom and the '85 Bears defense exemplified defensive excellence and left enduring legacies in the NFL. Now let's get into the top 10 most feared players in NFL history. These legends didn't just play the game, they changed it with their terrifying presence and unforgettable performances. Number 10, Ray Nitschke. This guy wasn't just tough, he was the definition of intimidation on the field. Nitschke was a key part of the Green Bay Packers defense in the 1960s, and let me tell you, opposing offenses were not happy to see him lined up across from them. What made Nitschke so scary? It wasn't just his hard-hitting tackles, it was his leadership and the way he controlled the game. This man was like a general on the battlefield, directing his troops and striking fear into the hearts of his enemies. Named MVP of the 1962 NFL Championship game, his impact was undeniable. But here's the thing that really sets Nitschke apart: his contributions to those legendary Packers teams. We're talking 5 NFL championships and the first 2 Super Bowls. That's a level of dominance that's hard to wrap your head around. And get this, he racked up 25 interceptions over his career. For a linebacker known for bone-crushing hits, that's some serious playmaking ability. Nitschke wasn't just feared, he was respected. He set the standard for what it meant to be a dominating presence on defense, paving the way for the other terrors we're about to discuss on this list. Number 9, Ronnie Lott. Next up is Ronnie Lott, a player so tough he once chose to amputate part of his finger rather than miss playing time. Yeah, you heard that right. Lott wasn't just known for his toughness, though. This guy was a defensive nightmare, striking fear into opponents with his incredible versatility and bone-crushing hits. He played cornerback, free safety, and strong safety during his career, and he excelled at every position. What really set Lott apart was his ability to change the game with a single play. He had this uncanny knack for making big hits at crucial moments. Opposing players knew that if they came across the middle, they were risking more than just a tackle. They were risking their health. Lott's career stats are mind-blowing. We're talking about 63 interceptions, 5 touchdowns, and 16 fumble recoveries. But numbers don't tell the whole story. It was the way he played the game that made him so terrifying. His intensity, his fearlessness, his willingness to sacrifice his body, These things made Ronnie Lott a legend and one of the most feared players in NFL history. Number 8. Night Train Lane. Imagine facing a guy nicknamed Night Train back in the 1950s and 60s. Lane wasn't just known for his incredible interception record, 14 in a single season, which still stands today. What made him truly terrifying was his signature night train necktie tackle, where he'd clothesline players by grabbing them around the head or neck. This move was so brutal it eventually got banned. Lane wasn't just about physical intimidation. He had this way of getting into receivers' heads before the ball was even snapped. He'd stare them down, talk trash, and make them second-guess every route. By the time the play started, half the battle was already won. Number 7, James Harrison. If you've ever seen this guy's eyes on game day, you know why he makes this list. Harrison wasn't just a great linebacker, he was a psychological terror on the field. His intense demeanor and those piercing eyes were enough to make quarterbacks think twice about where they were throwing. Harrison backed up that intimidating presence with some of the most violent hits in NFL history. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, and his hard-hitting style made him one of the most feared players of his era. Opponents knew that crossing the middle of the field meant risking a collision with Harrison, and that was a risk many weren't willing to take. Number 6, Reggie White. Known as the Minister of Defense, White wasn't just a great player. He was a force of nature on the field, and nearly 300 pounds, he had the size to dominate. But it was his combination of power and speed that made him truly terrifying. White's signature move was the hump move, where he'd literally toss offensive linemen aside like ragdolls. Imagine being a 300-pound lineman and getting manhandled like that. It's no wonder quarterbacks had nightmares about this guy. What really set White apart was his relentless motor. He never stopped coming, play after play, game after game. That kind of consistent pressure wears on you mentally as much as physically. By the fourth quarter, opposing players weren't just tired, they were demoralized. Number 5, Bill Romanowski. Romanowski wasn't just known for his aggressive play, he was infamous for it. This guy took playing dirty to a whole new level. We're talking multiple fines, altercations, and a reputation that had opponents checking over their shoulders every play. Romanowski's style of play was so intense, it actually led to rule changes in the NFL. Helmet-to-helmet hits? Yeah, he had a part in those becoming a big no-no. But here's the thing. It wasn't just his physical play that made him scary. It was the psychological warfare he waged on the field. Opponents never knew what he might do next, and that uncertainty was a weapon all its own. Number 4, Lawrence Taylor. LT wasn't just a great linebacker, he was a game changer in every sense of the word. This guy redefined what it meant to be a pass rusher. Offensive coordinators would stay up all night trying to figure out how to stop him, and they still couldn't do it. Taylor was the kind of player who could single-handedly disrupt an entire game plan. His speed and power off the edge were unmatched, and his ability to read plays made him a constant threat. What really set LT apart was his intensity. The man played like every down might be his last. That kind of relentless pressure doesn't just wear you down physically, it breaks you mentally. By the fourth quarter, quarterbacks weren't just tired, they were seeing ghosts. His dominance led to the creation of the blindside tackle position, forever changing the game. Taylor's career is studded with accolades. He was a 10-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and the only defensive player to have won the NFL MVP award in 1986. His impact on the game was so profound that he became the prototype for future generations of linebackers. Teams began drafting and developing players to emulate his style and intensity. Off the field, LT's larger-than-life personality and sometimes controversial lifestyle only added to his legendary status. Players would even sit out to avoid playing against LT. He was an icon who left an indelible mark on the NFL. Number 3, Dick Butkus. Butkus didn't just tackle you, he tried to drive you into the ground like a tent stake. He was raw, unbridled aggression on the field. His style of play set the standard for middle linebackers for generations to come. But it wasn't just his physical play that made him feared. Butkus had this way of getting into opponents' heads before the game even started. One look from those eyes and you knew you were in for a long, painful day. Off the field, he was known for his intense preparation and study of opponents, which made him a formidable tactician. He wasn't just out there to play, he was out there to dominate and intimidate. Players often said facing Butkus was like facing a wild animal. You never knew what he would do next, but you knew it would hurt. Butkus's career with the Chicago Bears was filled with remarkable achievements. He was an 8-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year. His relentless pursuit of excellence and his ability to anticipate plays made him a defensive mastermind. Butkus was the heart and soul of the Bears' defense, leading by example with his ferocious play and unwavering dedication. Even off the field, Butkus maintained an intense persona. His fiery competitiveness extended beyond the gridiron as he demanded the same level of intensity and commitment from his teammates. His impact on the game was so profound that he became a cultural icon, symbolizing the toughness and tenacity of football. Dick Butkus wasn't just a player, he was a force of nature who left an indelible legacy on the NFL. Number 2, Jack Tatum. Tatum's nickname, the Assassin, tells you everything you need to know. His hard-hitting style wasn't just intimidating, it was downright dangerous. His most infamous hit, the one that paralyzed Darryl Stingley, led to major changes in how the game is played. Tatum's aggressive approach was both feared and criticized, as he never apologized for the hit, reflecting his unapologetic playing style and mindset. Tatum's impact goes beyond that one play. His legacy of physical, intimidating play has shaped the way we think about safety in football. Every time you see a flag for a dangerous hit, you're seeing Tatum's influence on the game. He was a player who truly embodied the mentality of playing on the edge, constantly pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable on the field. Jack Tatum was a 3-time Pro Bowler and a key player in the Oakland Raiders' defense during their dominant years in the 1970s. His ability to deliver bone-crushing hits made receivers think twice about catching passes over the middle. Tatum's presence on the field was like a looming shadow. Quarterbacks and receivers always had to be aware of where he was, further solidifying his persona as one of the most feared players in NFL history. His refusal to soften his approach, even in the face of criticism, exemplified his commitment to his style of play. Jack Tatum's career was marked by both extraordinary talent and significant controversy. While his hits and style of play may have been polarizing, there's no denying the impact he had on the game of football. He left a lasting legacy that continues to influence how the game is played and regulated. In a sport defined by toughness and aggression, Tatum's name will always be synonymous with the ultimate enforcer, a player whose very presence on the field was enough to strike fear into the hearts of his opponents. Now we're at the top of the mountain, the king of fear, the ultimate intimidator. Ray Lewis is the most terrifying player in NFL history. When you think of Ray Lewis, what comes to mind? That crazy dance he did coming out of the tunnel? The way he'd scream at his teammates to pump them up? Or maybe it's those bone-crushing hits that made receivers think twice about going across the middle. Whatever it is, there's no denying that Ray Lewis was on another level when it came to striking fear into his opponents. Picture this. You're an opposing player getting ready for the game. You're trying to focus, get in the zone. Then you hear this primal scream coming from the tunnel. You look up, and there's Ray Lewis doing this wild dance, looking like he's ready to go to war. How do you even prepare for that? It's like facing a warrior who's already won the mental battle before the game even starts. But Lewis wasn't just about the show. This guy backed it up with some of the most intense play we've ever seen on a football field. He racked up over 2,000 career tackles. That's not just a number, that's 2,000 times he put the fear of God into some poor offensive player. Let's talk about his leadership. Ray Lewis didn't just intimidate opponents, he fired up his own team in a way we've rarely seen. He'd give these speeches that would have his teammates ready to run through a brick wall for him. That kind of intensity is contagious, and it made the entire Ravens defense a unit to be feared. On the field, there was no one more feared. Players would literally change their game plans to avoid him. Quarterbacks would look to see where he was before every snap. Running backs would think twice about hitting the hole if they saw number 52 waiting for them. What made Lewis so terrifying wasn't just his physical abilities. It was the way he got inside your head. He played mind games with opponents, talking trash and backing it up with his play. He had this way of making you feel like he knew exactly what you were going to do before you did it. It was like he could see the future, and the future was you getting laid out on the turf. Ray Lewis changed the way we think about the middle linebacker position. Before Lewis, it was all about plugging gaps and making tackles. But he showed that a middle linebacker could be the heart and soul of a defense, a true field general who could impact every single play. His impact goes way beyond just the players he hit. He changed the way the game is played, and his legacy is still felt in the NFL today. You see it in the way middle linebackers try to lead their defenses, in the way teams value that position in the draft. Every time you see a linebacker giving an impassioned speech to his team, you're seeing a little bit of Ray Lewis's legacy. So when we talk about the most feared players in NFL history, there's really no debate. Ray Lewis stands alone at the top. In a league full of tough guys, he was the one that even the tough guys feared. And that, my friends, is why Ray Lewis is the ultimate intimidator, the most terrifying player the NFL has ever seen. So there you have it. The top 10 most terrifying players in NFL history. These legends didn't just play the game, they changed it. Their legacy of fear and intimidation will live on forever in the annals of NFL history. What do you think? Did we miss anyone on our list? Who do you think is the most feared player in NFL history? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great content.